Hello, everyone, and today is February 21st, 2018. Man, can you believe that 2 months of 2018 are already gone? I can't, but I'm old. I just turned 40 like a few days ago, and man, you know what? I tell you one thing, dude, turning 40 isn't nearly as big of a deal as turning 30, and I think that has to do with that Saturn return. Turning 40 was nothing, so turning 30 sucked. So anyway, just keep that in mind if you're getting out close to 30, because that Saturn's coming back to its place where it started. So anyway, astrology in the news, what do we got going? Michelle Obama is going to release her memoirs, and I was like, I haven't taken a look at Michelle Obama's chart in a long time, because I get questions on whether she may make a run for office in 2020. So let's take a look at her chart here. Don't have a birth time for Michelle. If I had a birth time, this would be a lot easier to predict. However, we can get a little bit of an idea. So if we use the moon as her first house, she actually has the moon conjunct Venus in the sign of Aquarius, which is very good for people like public relations, dealing with people. And then Jupiter's in a very good position too, also in its home sign of Pisces, right? So looking at the fixed stars, okay, so she does have the Nib al-Gadi in there, and that's something that makes the lawyer. Now, Michelle was a lawyer, and then also too, if you look, she actually has her Mars exalted and her Sun also too in the sign of Capricorn. Very independent woman. I'm actually surprised she bothered getting married. Really though, what does this show about a possible presidential run? Now, we would need to find her birth time, because I would think that if her ascendant was in the sign of, well, let's see, I'm looking at this, I'd probably want this to be in the 10th house. So I would say if her ascendant was Taurus, this would probably make for a good leader, that or Gemini, because that would put Jupiter solely in the 10th house. But she's really got a lot of great planetary placements, planets that are in exaltation or in really good points on the chart. So, and then also too, I mean, we see Jupiter, Moon, and Venus in the Navamsa chart here down in the lower left. So, well, actually, that's my sidebar. And by the way, if anybody knows how to get rid of that Google sidebar, let me know. Send me an email. But anyway, I would say that there's a good chance that she is going to run for office at some point. 2020, it's hard to know if she actually has her. It depends on what her ascendant is, because then we could actually match it up with the dashas over there, because Mercury is really going to play the biggest factor in that. And she has Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius. So, you know, and if her ascendant were Pisces, that would put Mercury in the 10th house. And the 10th house is really where we look to. Okay. So, Die 5. California Dems don't do Dianne, and it looks like she is on her way out because she did not receive the California Democratic nomination, which is actually somewhat of a surprise. I know she's getting up there, but she's pretty much a lock for somebody to get reelected, so I don't get it. I don't see why they're kicking her out. But if we take a look at her chart, we actually do have a birth time for Dianne Feinstein. So her ascendant is in the sign of Pisces there, so we actually get somebody that really does care for somebody. You know, Pisces really do have a connection with, they like to make deep connections with people, and I think I say that in some of my other forecasts. So one of the things that I tell Pisces, one of the biggest pieces of advice is they are prone to depression. Actually, all of the, everybody's prone to depression, of course, but the water signs especially, they're prone to emotional depression because of the way that they express emotion. So Cancer, a little bit, let's see, codependent. So if that situation pops up, if they don't get their emotions reciprocated, they get depressed. Scorpios get depressed if they can't come to up to some sort of emotional conclusion, and Pisces get depressed if they cannot make a deep connection with somebody. So Di-Fi here, looking at her chart, let's see, does she have any fixed stars? Okay, so she's got Pollux, Pluto conjunct Pollux. Okay, that's interesting. That's actually more of a generational thing, but that's actually kind of, Pluto's got this subconscious vibe, and when it deals with Pollux, Pollux is about fighting. So I'm wondering if she fights herself at a deep emotional level. Let's see, Venus and Sun are also in the sign of Gemini there. So this very intelligent woman. Let's see, Moon is also in Taurus, but it's right on the cusp. So the Moon is like her, actually, that's her, it's almost tied with Mars for her Atma Karaka. And Moon is, her Moon is, let's see, square Mars too. So now Jupiter and K2 and Mars all being in the sign of Leo usually shows something that's in politics. So usually when I look for politicians, specifically MAGA, Magha has to do with politicians. Also, to the sign of Aquarius is about the people, and that could also show that that whole Leo Aquarius axis has a lot to do with politics. One is leadership, one is the people, and if you kind of see how that plays out, it's like an interesting dichotomy there. So next we have Z forever. Xi Jinping is they're in China. They're trying to get rid of their presidential term limits, which I don't think they even have because it's one party in power. They don't have elections, so they're just like, hey, this guy's going to be in charge forever. So yeah, Xi is looking to be the next Mao Zedong, and we do not have a birth time for him. However, taking a look at his chart, Jupiter, Sun, Mercury, and Mars all in the sign of Taurus, man. This guy really should have been a real estate agent, or I'm surprised he should have a lot of property. Now, really though, if his ascendant were as it says in the chart, by the way, I like to run the is if I don't know somebody's chart, some people like to run it at 12 a.m. that day. Run it at noon because the chances of the moon being in the right place are more probable. But if you take a look too, his moon is on the cusp of Sagittarius, and it's on the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn here. So it could go either way. So we don't even know where the house placement is with this guy. So if you were to call me and be like, hey, read my chart, guy, and I'm like, do you have your birth time? No, do not do this, because if the moon is closer to the center, it's going to make it easier. But with him, though, we could take a look at some of the mundane placements here. So Saturn and Virgo, definitely good for paying attention to the details. However, it's a retrograde, and it's also no, it's not aspect in plants. I'm sorry, but Saturn's retrograde, which can make somebody very hard on themselves, especially in the sign of Virgo. This person, Xi, picks himself to death over details about himself. He's very, very particular. Mars conjunct Mercury, let's see, that can be somewhat of a rough combination. Makes somebody very intellectually aggressive, and they're also aggressive with their communications. And then Jupiter conjunct Sun, it takes the ego and it goes, however, they may have a big ego, but Jupiter is not that bad of an influence at the Sun. They're actually natural friends. So the way that works is it kind of it makes the ego bigger, but there's a little more wisdom associated with that. But also too, there's a little bit when Jupiter is conjunct Sun, these people can be overly optimistic to the point where it can be nauseating. It's kind of like those are the people that you're like, hey man, get real. You know, it's like really high pie in the sky. So hopefully he's not getting out of touch with reality. So all right, everybody, thanks again for joining me today. Of course, like and subscribe if you like what you see. And of course, always, if you want to catch me on Periscope, the links are down there, Facebook. And of course, if you want me to cover anybody's chart too, feel free to send me an email. So have a great day, everyone.